Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Betsy Murphy, class of '89, and on behalf of the UNH Alumni Relations Team and the Alumni Association Board, I would like to thank you for joining us today at the Alumni Exclusive Behind the Numbers in Enrollment and Admissions. We're thrilled to have so many alumni tuning in for this insider conversation. Today's session is designed to give you a behind-the-scenes look at UNH's current enrollment landscape, what's shaping our student body, and how alumni can help share the UNH story as we look to the future. Before we begin, just a few quick notes. The presentation portion will run for about 50 minutes and will conclude with a dedicated Q&A session for the time that remains. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A feature, and we'll address as many as we can once the presentation wraps up. This is a webinar, so therefore your microphones and cameras will remain off throughout the session to ensure a smooth viewing experience. Thank you so much for helping in today's event and letting it run smoothly. Now, I'm pleased to introduce our presenter for today. Kim DeRego serves as Vice Provost for Enrollment Management here at UNH, where she oversees undergraduate admissions, financial aid strategy, and enrollment analytics. Kim brings extensive experience in higher education and has spent years shaping data-driven strategies to support student recruitment and long-term institutional planning. Her leadership plays a central role in understanding national admissions trends and guiding UNH's approach as the higher ed landscape continues to evolve. Kim will walk us through why enrollment numbers have shifted in the recent years, the national factors influencing admissions today, how UNH is planning ahead over the next several years, and importantly, how alumni can play an active role in helping to share UNH's story with prospective students and families. We are so grateful to have her expertise with us here today. With that, it is my pleasure to turn things over to Kim DeRego. Take it away, Kim.
Great. Thank you so much, Betsy. I'm really, really happy to be here. And thank you all so much for being interested in this topic. One of the things I'm going to share a lot of data with you today, but one area that is really important and I cannot emphasize enough is how much word of mouth and personal connections impact students' interest in coming to UNH. And that has always been true. And in today's digital age where students in some cases receive, I was just talking to a school counselor who said that her student received 70 offers of admission through the Direct Admit initiative on the Common App. It is a crowded landscape for students to navigate these days, and we really want to do our best to highlight why UNH is a great fit for them. And so your participation in that is so appreciated. And I will, throughout this presentation, I will talk about ways that you can help if you are so inclined. And then I also have an action guide that we are happy to send out after or make available to you. So that will be coming. So let me just dive into the numbers here. And I believe that if you have questions, you can type them into the chat and we will do our best to get to them all. If we do not, though, if there are any major themes or anything else, I know Betsy and Sarah will help me to follow up after. So I'm happy to do that. So, all right. We're going to cover a lot today in this presentation. So I will try to go through the numbers and the projections, the strategic enrollment management plan, and also our work that we've been doing with the community college system of New Hampshire, the anti-melt work that we've done. So that's basically over the summer, everything that we do with students, a quick overview of recruitment and travel, as well as our marketing. And then we can talk a little bit about what alumni can do to help. So going into our summary slides, this is probably, if you've been reading the news, very known. But when people ask me what is the biggest challenge of being an enrollment manager today, it is the fact that no matter what we do, no matter all the good marketing we do in the world, The demographics in our region are not in our favor. There were fewer babies born over the last 20 years than in the past. And so no matter what we do, you cannot create them. You cannot create 18-year-olds. And so we are dealing with shrinking demographics, and that has continued. I just did a Carsey School webinar with the New Hampshire State demographer, and it is indeed the birth rate has continued to go down in our region. So this is something we'll be dealing with for a long time. However, even in spite of that, UNH enrollment, as well as our net revenue, which is what comes off of what the students pay to be here, has remained remarkably steady. So while we are in a declining environment, I tell my team very often, flat is the new up. Being able to maintain our enrollment is a win. And so we have really seen that we have been able to maintain our enrollment. So what you're seeing on this chart, and again, I live deep in this data, so I'll try to unpack it for you, is the blue line is our graduate student population. The orange line is our law school, and law school has seen some growth, especially in the last 3 years because of their hybrid JD program, which was really a revolutionary program in the field of law that has seen great enrollment success. Our new undergrad population is that gray line, and then our continuing undergrad population is the yellow line. So you can see that we have had overall some strong enrollment in the last couple of years, even in spite of the demographic declines. I will say the other thing that has occurred in that time, as you may be really well aware of, is we saw the merger with UNH and Granite State College, and that brought in about 40 fully online undergraduate and graduate programs that students can access. And so we saw some growth from that, which has been really terrific. Okay, so what students always ask me is, if students don't go to UNH, who wouldn't want to go to UNH? But in your applicant pool, if students don't go to UNH, where are they going and what are you doing about it? And we spend a lot of time thinking about this in enrollment. And so what this chart is showing you, again, bear with me for all the data, is when a student doesn't choose to go to UNH, where are they going? And so I will draw your attention to the bright white line that we have sort of highlighted in the middle of this screen. And that is the number of students who don't go anywhere. They don't go to trade school. They don't go to community college. They don't enroll in culinary school. They don't go to another flagship. They just don't go. We were very concerned because for the last 2 years, as you can see, that segment was growing up to 15%, which is a lot. We saw that go down this past year, which has been really, really a good sign. But we did see growth in some other segments. Now, I will also draw your attention to that we saw growth in the community college segment. So that enrolled in a 2-year college went from 2% to 3%. I know that seems like a small number, but for us, that is terrific. That's a rebound of the community college. We have worked really hard with our community colleges in New Hampshire to have pipeline programs that students can go and do 2 years at the community college and then 2 years at UNH. And we have seen growth in those programs, so that is terrific. The other thing that is sort of buried in this data that will just explain is where we saw other growth are in out-of-state privates and other regional publics, not flagships, but other regional publics. And that is actually an indication of cost sensitivity. Those are the segments that are giving the largest scholarships. And that is really a result of people being cost sensitive. So as I mentioned, we have seen the increase in non-college going students, and that has actually been happening nationally. So that is not just a UNH or not just a New Hampshire or a New England trend. That is a national trend. And then one bit of good news, and we always get this question from our faculty, so I like to put this in for when I'm talking to faculty especially, is our retention rates have increased. So in Durham, our retention rate this past year was 88%. That means our first-year students who go on to be second-year students. And 88% is an incredibly high number for sort of an industry average. So we're very proud of that. And it's a really positive thing for our students that they are retaining. Graduate enrollment has gone up, and then we saw a little bit of a decrease this past year. That was due to international student decline. The landscape for international students has gotten pretty difficult over the last year, and so we saw declines in that population this past year. Okay, so when those students don't go to UNH, what do they tell us about why they don't go to UNH? This is something, again, I get asked all the time. And we survey students and get a lot of students to respond, and they give us some really interesting answer. Now, the first one that will not surprise you is total amount of financial aid offered. And this question actually involves not just total amount of aid offered, but overall cost, value, all of that. And this is something that we work really hard with all of our partners and frankly with our advancement team and others to make sure we have as many scholarship dollars as possible for our students. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a weird thing on my screen. I don't know if you could see that, but we're going to hope it doesn't blow up. Then I want to draw your attention to the next couple of things that students say. Too many students from home. This is what we hear mostly from New Hampshire students. And those of you who are parents will know this phenomenon well. We have a state and a region, I think, as well, but especially in New Hampshire, where young people typically attend school with the same group of kids in the same town for their entire 12 years. In most cases, in some cases, you have some regional schools where that doesn't happen, but for a lot of our population, that is the case. And usually these are pretty small schools. So my daughter, who's 14, has been going to school with the same 90 students, and that's a big class for our town, since she was in pre-K. And students, especially, as they grow up and as they go through the coming of age experience, it is very natural at that age. They want to spread their wings and they want to be not with those kids anymore, even if they have a great high school experience. And so we really work hard in our marketing materials to tell students and to convey the message that we are a big place with 12,000 undergrads. You are not going to see the 90 kids you went to high school with. And I know you all probably are nodding along saying, well, of course, but it's really hard for students who've had that their entire lives to appreciate that. The next two are sort of hilarious. The next two reasons why people don't go here is either we're too close to home or too far from home. And so, that is something that's difficult for us to change. The location is what it is. Does not offer my major. This is something that we are really working on this year with our communications because we have over 200 majors. So my opinion is that the students who say we don't offer their major, we just have not explained to them which programs we have and how they can do those. And then inability to pursue hobby or interest, concerned about state budget cuts. This year, that really increased for us. We had a lot of students saying they heard in the news that the state was cutting the budget of UNH. And even though we have a large budget outside of what the state gives us, that did cause a lot of concern to families. Campus visit experience, which we're doing a lot of updates on this year. Major, and then too few students from home, which not very many students say. So those are the reasons why students say they don't go to UNH. So let's get into sort of what we're doing about all of those things, because there's a lot going on. So the first thing I want to talk about is our strategic enrollment plan. So 2 years ago, might be 3 at this point, we launched a strategic enrollment planning exercise where faculty, staff, students from all over the institution came together to look at what are the things we could do to really help UNH enrollment. The first was to reinforce and modernize our graduate recruitment practices to allow UNH to capitalize on these investments. So that was a lot of stuff that, frankly, I won't get into too much of it because it had to do with our technology, our CRM, our social media, a lot of those sorts of things that have been really impactful, but I won't just go into too many of those. Increase international student enrollment. We have a team that is working hard on this. The environment has gotten fairly difficult, but that is something that we are committed to making sure that as more visa appointments open up and things like that, we are able to absorb any international students who are qualified and want to come to UNH. Reform our community college system of New Hampshire transfer process and our other transfer processes. We actually get more transfer students from four-year institutions than from the community college, which is different than most public flagships, but that has always been the way our transfer numbers work. And so we are working on making sure we have really streamlined, clear credit transfer processes and policies for those students, and then re-engage adults with some college, no degree. That's something that has been possible for us because of our merger with Granite State College, now the College of Professional Studies Online at UNH. And we've been able to offer options to adults who have some college but need to finish and need to finish online because they're working, they have families, perhaps they moved away, those sorts of things. And we've seen great success with that initiative. We have had success in this strategic enrollment plan this year. So we increased the number of international students by 51 students, which does not sound like a lot, but in this environment, that was a really, really great success for us. We also saw a 2% increase in people who transferred from Community College System of New Hampshire to our Durham or Manchester campuses, and 63 students who had previously left UNH without a degree re-enrolled, 23 on campus and 40 on campus. So those were great successes that we saw this year. In addition to the strategic enrollment plan, we are doing all of our regular recruitment initiatives. So I'm not sure it's happened yet. People, 100% of the time that I talk about what we do around enrollment, people ask me, do you visit high schools? And the answer is yes. We visit this year, we have 1,323 high school visits planned just for the fall, which is a 10% increase over last year. And we also have an extensive travel season that our admissions counselors do to recruit and go into those high schools and talk to students. Okay, I want to shift a little bit. Marketing is a department at the university that does not report to me, but that works very closely with me. And they are marketing for the overall picture of UNH. So they are marketing all of UNH as well as to the enrollment funnel. And so I want to share with you the campaign this year that marketing has in market that hopefully you have seen, but if you have not, I'm going to share it here. And I apologize if it's a little bit jerky, but I think you will get the gist. I'm just going to share what the Dare to Do campaign is all about.
Our roots run deep, yet our eyes are always on the future. We build, break, fix, repeat. We don't wait for change. We make it happen. And we do this for the impact. Because the best way to make a difference is to go out there and do. University of New Hampshire. Dare to do.
Great. Oh gosh, don't keep going, YouTube.
Oh.
Sorry. Hold on. Okay, there we go. And so this campaign is running all over our region, but really maximizing in-market presence ahead of our undergraduate deadlines. I was just in a meeting with marketing where we talked about how to get this out even further to some of our key markets. And so this is running all over our region at the moment. Some new tactics that we have this year for marketing are personalization. So we are personalizing our email, call, and text with both the use of AI, but as also the use of our human staff. So our college folks in the colleges are writing handwritten note cards to our admitted students. We are marketing college-specific tours in most of our colleges right now. So a lot more personalization of our admissions and marketing content. We have new audience pipelines with international travel materials, paid digital, email drip campaigns, etc. We are doing a lot with reputation and word of mouth, and that is what I will be asking of you as we get toward the end of this presentation, but a lot of earned media with our school counselors, using TikTok, our campaigns, peer review of our website content, and value and return on investment. Our audience segmentation, we're looking at in-state and out-of-state drip campaigns. We are also participating in Niche Direct Admit, which is a company that is has offered us a direct admit pilot to tell students who qualify that maybe have not yet applied that they would be eligible to be admitted if they did apply. We have a new website that is launching very soon. There will be new landing pages, really emphasizing value and outcomes. As you are probably well aware, we are still ranked the top value public institution in the region in New England, and one of the top in the country. And so we talk about that a lot in all of our materials. And we do a lot with non-inquirers. So website optimization, self-guided tour, virtual tour, etc. And our yield campaign, which is once the students have been admitted, everything we tell them about how they should consider UNH and confirmed coming to UNH. We have extensive personalized and digital outreach at that stage as well. Okay, anti-melt. So that gets us through to when the students have been admitted and when the students have committed that they are coming. And then we have some great content once they are in the process of transitioning to UNH. So our new student and family programs department has launched a tool. They do everything from onboarding to support to connection of students with their UNH faculty and staff who are going to support them. And they do this with 3 major events over the summer. So before the roar is a bunch of information that goes to students about information at UNH. It's an online platform. Then there is the orientation where students come to campus. We have about 5 or 6 of those over the summer, and they can build connection with staff. They usually get registered at that event, and it introduces UNH's physical space. We also have Wildcat Days, which is right when students move in, and they really does a college kickoff and tradition events. They do some sporting events, they do some well-being and student success sessions, and individual needs focused events. And all right, now I want to transition into talking a little bit, let me just stop my share here, about what you can do to help us to communicate with students. And so I have a worksheet that I can send out, or I can ask Sarah to share and post on the website after. But really where this comes down is word of mouth. It is sharing information with your network about your personal experience at UNH and what UNH is all about. So there are a couple of things that we ask alumni to do. One of them is social media, where if you are on social media, to post or repost videos that UNH is sharing with a comment from you that says UNH is a great place, those sorts of things. I had a great experience at UNH. I'm a proud alum. Those are incredibly impactful. So that's number one. Number 2 is thinking about the young people in your life and talking to them about your experience. And I know this is something that can feel a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit pushy, but it can be done in a very kind and gentle way. I will tell you, young people right now are inundated with information about college, but not necessarily helpful information. And we do our best. We send them 80 emails. The average number of student who is applying to UNH receives 80 different emails from us. I know it's a lot. We've tried to trim it down, but an email is one of these necessary evils that if you don't communicate enough, people say you're not communicating. And if you communicate too much, they're not happy either. So that's from just us. And the average student is applying to 6 to 7 institutions. We have a lot of students who are applying to up to 20. That's a lot of emails that students are getting. It is really hard to break through that noise. And the other piece of information that's really important for adults in a young person's life to communicate is outcomes, is how did you get the job that you have today? Hopefully UNH was a big part of that. And to be able to connect UNH to that part of your life and that part of your experience is a really important thing that can really help a student, especially in the age of AI. We hear from families, we don't actually hear this from students that often, but we hear from parents very regularly today, well, we're just not sure about a college degree because isn't AI changing everything and no one will need a college degree? We have scholars that are looking at this very closely, and all of the evidence, all of the research says that AI is very likely going to change the landscape of a lot of jobs. There are certain professions that are going to be really transformed, but it is going to transform the workplace rather than decimate it. And that's something that we are really talking to a lot of our families about. We're holding an event about AI and future careers coming up soon. Our dean of our College of Engineering and Physical Sciences has written talking points for admissions that really explain this is not something that is taking the jobs away. It is just going to transform the way we work. And we need to make sure we are training students to be able to work in that world and effectively manage it. And that's what we're really trying to do. So sharing information like that, what you're seeing in your own industry, and what students can do in that way. So those are two things that if you do nothing else after this in talking about UNH, you can absolutely do those two things. Share information about UNH on your own social media channels and talk with anyone you know who has a high school student or knows a high school student about the value of a UNH education and their future. And we have a lot of content on our social media channels, on our YouTube channels, on our websites that can help to sort of make that story if you need any resources, but they're all there. So with that, I believe there are a couple of questions perhaps. And I think that Sarah might have a question. There we go. Sarah, there you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. That was amazing. That was so informative. And I'm sure our alumni audience really appreciated that. We did have a couple of questions. One going off of what you were just referencing about sharing and, talking with family members and everything. And are there maybe areas of UNH that stand out competitively that our alums can really focus on when they are communicating to students or family members or anything? I mean, Thanksgiving's right around the corner. This
Yes.
could be very good talking points to start
Yeah.
out. So
Yes, that is an amazing, amazing question. And I am trying to find out, we have had a page. I was going to try to share it with you if I can come up with it, but I'm not finding it here. I will just share oh gosh, no, I've lost you entirely. Where are you? Coming back here. So one of the things that we are the most proud of and one of the most important rankings is what I was talking about top value institution. And if you are looking for a good way to talk about that, there is this website that I'll just share with you. And there are several others if you look them up. This was the first one that came up in my Google search. But we are ranked by US News as a top value institution. And that is so important because of what I was mentioning around cost sensitivity, that families want to know that they're going to get a good return on investment. So that, I would say, top value is the first thing to share. We also have high rankings in sustainability and sustainability programs. We are a platinum ranked sustainability institution, which is the highest level that you can get. And so that is another thing that a lot of young people today are looking for, and we really want to make sure people know. We also have some of the highest rankings for job placements and grad school placements. So our students, I believe the number this last year was 94%. Within 6 months of graduation, 94% of our students are employed or in the grad school, in medical school, or whatever else that they're trying to go on to do. And that is for industry, that is way above industry average. And so that's another thing that as families are trying to understand the investment that is higher ed, that's a really important thing to point out. Our Paul College of Business is ranked #1 in New England. And so we see students coming to that. But we have rankings all over all of the colleges that are excellent and especially excellent in the region. So any student who wants to be a teacher, a nurse, whatever they're looking to do, they can find a program here that is relevant and important to what they want to do.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I'm happy to, as everyone knows, I'm happy to include these links. No one needs to memorize what Kim just
Yeah.
said, so I will certainly provide that. But it is, I mean, we all love UNH very, very much. So we know the talking points, but it's good to have ones that are a little more recent as a 2009 graduate. So we had another question come in through any insight a little bit more on the retention rate. You said that it was at 88%. Do you happen to know why specifically more like 12% or so leave? I know that you did reference some of that data in your presentation, but do you mind doing a quick recap again?
Sure. Yeah, there are a couple of reasons why students don't retain from first to second year. The biggest that we see is actually sort of unfortunate personal circumstances. They will have a, parent pass away. They will have something that's like really, you just couldn't foresee, they couldn't foresee. And so for those are sort of sad cases that we can do nothing, really can't do anything about except support the student. And we do see a lot of those students come back. We work really hard to say, no problem, take time, do what you need to do, and then they come back. So that's sort of one. There are students who transfer out, and when they transfer out, it is often either financial or just personal. I had a young woman in my office about a year ago who was thinking of leaving after her first year because, and this is like my least favorite thing to see, she had come to UNH with her boyfriend from college, and then that relationship had ended, as often does. And she just couldn't find her place without that person. And, that happens, and we try to do everything we can to support those students, but sometimes it's just not the right place or the right fit. And then I would say the third most common thing that we see is financial. Students simply cannot make it work financially, or they decide that what they are having to take for loans or whatever else is just not could work for them. We really do everything we can to try to keep those students, but sometimes they don't actually, sometimes they don't really say very much. Often there's a lot of sort of feelings and shame associated with not being able to afford college. And so sometimes they just transfer and we sort of never know. So those are kind of the reasons we see for students not retaining.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you. That is, I feel like I'm sure many people could maybe relate to that story, so
Yeah.
that's very helpful.
Yeah.
So when I know you referenced the financial, I feel like that's obviously a big thing that everybody has to confront when going to college. Is there anything, I know we've had a couple questions about this. One was just kind of saying, how is UNH addressing the concerns with affordability, financial aid? I know we can certainly give a plug to supporting some of our students in
Yep.
financial aid, but also, making sure that how are we kind of supporting our young military veterans? So there's been a couple of questions on
Great.
financial aid. Do you mind going into a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of ways that students are supported financially. So the first are federal programs. And there are federal programs like the Pell Grant and military and veterans scholarships, things like that, that we administer that actually we have not seen. We thought at one point we were going to see some major changes to some of those, but ultimately we actually haven't. And those support students in really terrific ways. The Pell Grant in particular is for sort of the lowest income students. And UNH has a program called the Granite Guarantee, where for in-state students who are Pell eligible, we cover the full cost of tuition. So they get the Pell Grant, and then we cover the rest of their tuition. So we really do try to support those students as much as we can. So those programs exist. We also have, and actually the larger amount of scholarships that we give to our students are our own institutional funds. And those come from a couple of different sources. So the largest source is our endowed and restricted scholarships. So these are funds that have been given to the university to support students. Often they have specific restrictions or qualifications. A student has to be a flute player from Coos County, and we will be giving those to students who qualify for those scholarships. And then we also have university funds. The university has dedicated to support students. And that's where we really try to give as much as possible to students to help make them successful based on their need. We look at those numbers essentially by need and also some that are by merit, and give them to students to try to help to support them. So that's really how the scholarships run. We have a terrific ROTC program, two of them actually, that support students who come for those programs. And those scholarships are often full or close to full for those students. And we've not seen reductions in those. So that has been terrific. And we have a great population of those students. Yeah, I think that's the financial aid piece.
That's very helpful. And I mean, obviously, we all know the value in UNH, but is there anything to be said that, I mean, it obviously costs more than other colleges. But when students do come back and say, well, is it worth spending that much money? I mean, I feel like that goes back to what you were saying before, what makes UNH so competitive compared to other universities and what we can offer. I don't know if there's anything else.
I love the way you phrase that, Sarah, because you're giving me an opportunity to myth bust.
Yeah.
So there has been a myth, and actually I am debating, maybe you all can tell me whether you think I should do this. There has been a myth for a long time that UNH is the most expensive public institution. We are not, actually. There are several public institutions that are more expensive for both in-state and out-of-state students than UNH. I think that used to be true years ago when a couple things were happening. One, other states were funding their higher ed institutions much more than they are today. And we weren't. And so we were more expensive at that time. But also for the last 6 years, we have held in-state tuition flat for in-state students. And so we actually now are much more, we are not the most expensive. We're not the least expensive. I give you that there. But I think that the statement to say, if you all, this is another thing you all can do, I didn't even think to say, if you hear someone say, well, obviously UNH is the most expensive public institution, you can say, actually, they're not. Now, I had our marketing firm that we work with come up with an animation that we could share on social media that says exactly that, that says, you might think, you may have heard that UNH is the most expensive public institution. That is not true. And these are all the schools that are more expensive than UNH. But I got cold feet about running that because I'm debating, because my worry is if someone's not thinking that, if they have, if they've done the research and they're like, oh no, this other school is more expensive, they're not that expensive. I don't want to put that out there. But maybe, and you all, I wish I had prepared a poll for this. You can all tell me if you think that is pervasive enough that it's worth running. That would be good information to know, because I do think, Sarah, just like you said, I hear that all the time, all the time.
Very much. I feel like that's a number one talking point that people
Yeah.
But
Okay,
I'm sure, I mean, people can answer in Q&A if you want, or you can follow up with an email afterwards of if you think Kim should roll that or not. But I feel like it is helpful. I'm glad that we were able to put that out there right now. So,
yes.
And this is recorded, so it's helpful. Okay, so shifting gears from financial, we have an alum that is a college and career counselor. And she's just curious. She said the biggest thing that she's seeing in the trends is going south. So
no, me too.
She's like, why? Why is everyone going to the south? Why don't they like the warm, snowy, and like all the seasons kind of thing?
Yes.
So what is it? Do you see that too?
I see that, Julie. Thank you for that question. This is a national trend. I love it. Thank you. Somebody did a poll for me. God, that has to be Andy. Thank you, Andy. You were the best. So yes, Julie, I hope you're connected also with Evan Beals, who is our counselor down there in Philadelphia, our admissions counselor. But yes, this is a national trend, New England students going south. And so we're not alone. At least they're not just leaving us. And actually, maybe if you're in Philadelphia, maybe this is even mid-Atlantic or going south. I think it is a trend that we're seeing. It is a trend that we are. Ooh, I like it. Yes. People said no. 8. All right. I'm interested for those 8 who said no, we shouldn't run it. I'm interested in your thinking. So anyway, but we are. Here's what I'll say about the students going south. So we are really trying to influence with all of our messaging and all of our talking about what is great about UNH, students to stay, to come here. We run a special campaign for students who applied but did not come that we call our Come Home campaign. It is now available to both in-state and out-of-state students. And it allows them to get the scholarship we offered them as a first-year student as a transfer student if they transfer within the first year. And we see a huge number of students who go south taking us up on this offer. Because what happens, and they tell us this, is they go south because, well, they're growing up, their parents take them to Florida or South Carolina or whatever on vacation in February, and they have a great time because they're leaving the frozen tundra and they're going to the warm sunshine. And so they have a great time and they think, yeah, I liked my spring breaks in Florida. I'm going to go to college there. But when they get there and have to spend the whole school year there, they encounter a lot more weather than they were expecting. Other things that aren't as that they don't love as much as they love the Northeast, and so they come back. So we recognize that trend. We wring our hands over it. We try to convince them to stay, and then we do everything we can to convince them to transfer back. And a huge number of them do take us up on that.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. And then another question is, what's the acceptance rate? Do you have that
Yep.
data available?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
And then how does that
So-
compare over the past 5 years with
Yep.
increased
Yep.
interest?
So our acceptance rate hasn't changed too much. Our acceptance rate is actually over 80% because we have it's like in the low 80s, because we have a very, for 2 reasons. We have a pool that really self-selects. Our school counselor community is terrific, and they really understand the types of students that we're looking for. And we're very transparent about what we're looking for and what will be admitted. And so we do not get a huge number of students who apply and are completely unqualified, which is terrific. We also do a program where we alt major students, give students an alternate major. So if a student applies to engineering, for instance, or nursing or whatever else, and they're not qualified for that, we still admit them. We just admit them to a major that they're eligible for. And that practice increases our acceptance rate. And we've gone back and forth over the years about whether we should stop doing that in an effort to decrease our acceptance rate. But ultimately, being a public institution with a mission to educate the students in our region, we have decided to keep doing it because it does provide opportunity for a lot of students who don't really know exactly what they exactly what they want to do, and it gives them an entry point into UNH. So that's sort of the thinking behind there.
Nice. And acceptance rates, out of state, in state, do you have any data on like net net tuition rate net rates on that or anything?
I'm sorry, say it again, Sarah. I was looking at the questions.
I know there were a lot of responses to
Yeah, go ahead.
why they
I
said
love it.
no.
I'm
So
going to
it's very
read through them
helpful.
all, but I got to
Yeah.
listen to Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, they're just curious about out of state versus in state. So do you have any data on acceptance rates and
Same.
that
We
comparison?
don't, I mean, we have very few programs that are, that privilege one group over the other. We have our in-state, because it's so high, frankly, we are able to offer admission to qualified students. We do have, there are some programs, for instance, because of our commitment to addressing the healthcare worker shortage in the state of New Hampshire, we've worked with the state very closely to say we are going to admit more in-state students to nursing, which is highly competitive, than out-of-state students. We still offer a lot of out-of-state students, but we try to offer more in-states. Our Hamel Scholars Program, which is our sort of tippy-top honors program, large scholarships for the top students in the state of New Hampshire is limited to students in the state of New Hampshire, but in-state and out-of-state acceptance rates are basically the same overall.
Wonderful, thanks. And then one last question before we kind of sign off here and everything. I think it's a good closing one. Again, it goes with the theme of Thanksgiving coming around and students coming home for the break.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have maybe a freshman coming back and they're hanging out with their senior high school friends. Are there any thoughts on, not to like persuade, but, you know, just messaging that maybe can kind of support of what, I mean, I know dining halls are always a big talking point and everything of why to go to UNH, but how could a student kind of incentivize that message a little bit to a high school senior?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. We find that our students, they don't do a lot of sort of going back and talking to other, we would love them to do more going back and talking to other kids. So if you have a student in your life who's willing to do that, thank you, and please tell them to. I think it really is working against some of those perceptions that we talked about before, that number one, you're not going to see all your high school friends. That is the thing we hear the most from kids, other than, of course, the cost conversation. But we hear the most that they think they're going to see all their high school friends, and that's why they want to go to Alabama. And so, you know, really telling them it's a big place. You're not going to see all your high school friends unless you want to, in which case you can hang out with them. But if you don't, you're just not going to have to. And so that would be number one. Number two is really the outcomes. You know, for those of you who still live in New Hampshire and the region, you will know we have a shortage of workers in our state. We are told all the time by companies and employers and the state legislature that they need more workers in the state of New Hampshire. So unlike a lot of places which are seeing, you know, unemployment ticking up and things like that, we have a lot of amazing job prospects for our students, and they have great outcomes. And so, you know, to really impress upon students that opportunities await you here. Opportunities are available in the state of New Hampshire, and there are a lot of jobs looking for qualified, skilled people who can step into those roles. We have a great program that was just launched last year in collaboration with Lonza around biotech and computer science and some of those fields that they really need people for. And it's a program where the students get a large scholarship, they get mentorship from people who work at Lonza, they get guaranteed internships, guaranteed job placements. It's an amazing program directly tied to the workforce needs of the state. And, you know, those are the sort of opportunities that students can do. And so to talk about that, I think is really important.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful. Thank you so much, Kim. This has been as our first exclusive, you know, webinar and behind the scenes kind of thing. I really appreciate you going through all this data. I know our alumni probably appreciate it too. And I do want to say that, you know, in the alumni department, we have amazing opportunities to stay connected. Especially, we have a program called Write a Wildcat that's coming up in February that is working with writing postcards to prospective students. And it's a great opportunity to kind of get the message out there about why UNH is so wonderful. But we also have other ways that we will follow up with resources that you can make sure that you're promoting why UNH is so great. But it's also just helpful to have this background and information. So thank you, Kim, and thank you to our alumni. We really appreciate it. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share them with Kim, and we're always open to any conversation. So thank you again, and thanks, Kim.
Great. Thank you so much. It's great to be with you.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.